So welcome. Nice to see you all here. I think we're in tune. My wife Susan and I first heard John McCutcheon's brand new song in 1985. There was war in the 80s between Britain and Argentina, between Iran and Iraq, and it was in that setting, in those times, that he wrote this song about this event from 1914. We loved his music then, and we still do. My name is Francis Tolliver. I come from Liverpool. 2 years ago, the war was waiting for me after school. To Belgium and to Flanders, to Germany, to here. We fought for king and country we loved dear. It was Christmas in the trenches where the frost so bitter hung. The frozen fields of France were still, no Christmas song was sung. Our families back in England, they were toasting us that day. Their brave and glorious lads so far away. I was lying with my messmates on the cold and rocky ground when across the lines of battle came a most peculiar sound. Says I, now listen up, me boys, each soldier strained to hear, as one young German voice sang out so clear. He's singing bloody well, you know, my partner said to me. Soon one by one each German voice joined in harmony. The cannons rested silent, the gas clouds rolled no more, as Christmas brought us respite from the war. Now as soon as they were finished and a reverent pause was spent, God rest you merry gentlemen, struck up some lads from Kent. Oh, the next they sang was Stille Nacht, is silent night, says I, and in two tongues one song filled up that sky. There's someone coming towards us, the front line sentry cried. All sights were fixed on one young soldier coming from their side. His truce flag, like a Christmas star, shone on that plain so bright as he bravely strode unarmed into the night. And one by one on either side walked into no man's land. With neither gun nor bayonet, we met there hand to hand. We shared some secret brandy, and we wished each other well. And in a flare-lit soccer game, we gave 'em hell. We traded chocolates, cigarettes, and photographs from home. These sons and fathers far away from families of their own Young Sanders played his squeeze box, and they had a violin, this curious and unlikely band of men. Soon daylight stole upon us, and France was France once more. With sad farewells we each began to settle back to war. But the question haunted every heart that lived that wondrous night: whose family have I fixed within my sights? It was Christmas in the trenches where the frost so bitter hung. The frozen fields where France were warmed as songs of peace were sung. For the walls they kept between us to exact the work of war had been crumbled and were gone forevermore. My name is Francis Tolliver, in Liverpool I dwell. Each Christmas come since World War I, I've learned its lessons well. That the ones who call the shots won't be among the dead and lame. And on each end of the rifle, we're the same.
That was so nice. It was great. Whoa.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my goodness. Hi, welcome. Happy solstice.
Happy solstice.
It's great to see you. Thanks for making it. My goodness. Wow, everybody made it throughout the cold. That was nice.
In 1914, they thought the war would be over by Christmas. They did. A lot of them didn't even know why they were fighting. Hundreds of thousands of Germans had been living in England and working as cab drivers and waiters and construction workers. And then they had to go back to Germany to fight against the very people that they had lived with and worked next door to.
British machine gunner Bruce Bairnsfather wrote about it in his memoirs. He was crouched in his trench that stretched just 3 feet deep and 3 feet wide. His days and nights marked by an endless cycle of sleeplessness and fear, stale biscuits and cigarettes too wet to light. He said, "Here I was in this horrible clay cavity, miles and miles from home, cold, wet through, and covered with mud. There didn't seem the slightest chance of leaving, except in an ambulance."
Well, if you'd paid attention, you probably would have known about the truce. There had been a lot of talk about it. Pope Benedict XV talked to a lot of people that he knew to try to get them to work on a ceasefire for the holidays, but he was rebuffed. And 101 British suffragettes wrote an open letter to all the women of Germany and Austria proposing a ceasefire for the holidays.
What happened next would, in the years to come, stun the world and make history. Enemy soldiers began to nervously climb out of their trenches and meet in the barbed wire-filled no man's land. Normally, the British and Germans communicated across no man's land with streaking bullets, but now there were handshakes and words of kindness. Soldiers traded songs, tobacco, and wine, and joined in a spontaneous holiday party in the cold night.
And 110 years ago last night, a chocolate cake arrived in a British trench sent over by the Germans with an invitation to a concert. They wanted to celebrate the birthday of one of their officers. They said, "Leave your weapons. Your only admission is your empty hands."
Bruce Bairnsfather couldn't believe his eyes. Here they were, the actual practical soldiers of the German army, and there was not an atom of hate on either side.
Let's go. Let's go.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Christmas morning, 1914.
My dear sister Janet, it is 2 a.m, and most of our men are asleep in their dugouts. Yet, I could not sleep myself before writing to you of the wonderful events of Christmas Eve. In truth, what happened seems almost like a fairy tale, and if I hadn't been through it myself, I would scarce believe it. Just imagine, while you and the family sang carols before the fire there in London, I did the same with enemy soldiers here on the battlefields of France.
As I wrote before, little serious fighting of late has happened because the first battles of the war left so many dead that both sides have held back until replacements had come. So mostly we just stayed in our trenches and waited.
But what a terrible waiting it has been, knowing that any moment an artillery shell might land and explode beside us in a trench, killing or maiming several men, and in daylight not daring to lift our heads above ground for fear of a sniper's bullet.
And the rain. It has fallen almost daily. And of course, it collects in our trenches, where we must bail it out with pots and pans. And with the rain comes the mud, a good foot or more deep. It splatters and cakes on everything, constantly sucking at our boots. One new recruit got his feet stuck, and then got his hands stuck in it too, just trying to get out.
Through all this, we couldn't help feeling curious about the Germans across the way. After all, they faced the same dangers we did, and they slogged about in the same muck. What's more, their first trench was only 50 yards away. Between us lay no man's land, land bordered on both sides with barbed wire. Yet they were close enough. We could sometimes hear their voices.
Of course we hated them when they killed our friends. But other times, we joked about them and almost felt we had something in common. And now it seems they felt the same.
Just yesterday morning, Christmas Eve day, we had our first good hard freeze. As cold as we were, we welcomed it because it froze the mud solid. Everything was tinged with white frost. As the sun shone above all, a perfect Christmas weather.
During the day, there was little shelling or rifle fire from either side, and as darkness fell on our Christmas Eve, the shooting stopped entirely. Our first complete silence in months. We hoped it might bring and promise a peaceful holiday, but we didn't count on it. We've been told the Germans might attack and try to catch us off guard.
I went to the dugout to rest, and I must have drifted asleep. All at once, my friend John was shaking me awake, saying,
Come and see. See what the Germans are doing.
I grabbed my rifle, stumbled into the trench, and cautiously stuck my head above the sandbags. I hope never to see a stranger and more lovely sight. Clusters of tiny lights strung all across the German lines, left and right, as far as the eye could see.
What is it? I asked in bewilderment. And John replied.
Christmas trees.
And so it was. The Germans had placed Christmas trees in front of their trenches with lanterns and candles, like a beacon of goodwill.
And then we heard their voices raised in song. Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht, alle schläft, einsam wacht. This carol may not yet be familiar to us in Britain, but John knew it and translated,
Silent night. Holy night.
I've never heard one lovelier or more meaningful in that quiet, clear night. Its dark softened by a first quarter moon.
When the song finished, the men in our trenches applauded. Yes, British soldiers applauding Germans. Then one of our own men started singing, and we all joined in.
The
First Noel, the angels did say, was to certain poor shepherds in fields as they lay.
In truth, we sounded not nearly as good as the Germans in their fine harmonies, but they responded with enthusiastic applause of their own and then began another.
O Tannenbaum, wie treu sind deine Blätter.
Then we replied,
O come, ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem. This time they joined in, singing the same words in Latin.
Adeste fidelis, lege triumphantes venite, venite in Bethlehem. British and German harmonizing across no man's land. I would have thought nothing could be more amazing, but what came next was more so.
English, come over!
We heard one of them shout.
You know shoot, we know shoot!
There in the trenches, we looked at each other in bewilderment. Then one of us shouted jokingly,
you come over here!
To our astonishment, we saw two figures rise from the trench, climb over their barbed wire, and advance, unprotected, across no man's land. One of them called,
Send officer to talk!
I saw one of our men lift his rifle to the ready, and many others did the same. But our captain called out,
Hold your fire.
Then he climbed out and went to meet the Germans halfway. We heard them talking, and a few minutes later, he came back with a German cigar in his mouth.
All right, we've agreed there will be no shooting before midnight tomorrow. But sentries are to remain on duty, and the rest of you, stay alert.
across the way, we could see groups of 2 or 3 men starting out of their trenches, coming towards us. Then we started to climb out too, and then many more. There we were, in no man's land. Soldiers and officers, over 100 from both sides, shaking hands with the men we had only been trying to kill hours earlier.
Before long, a bonfire was built, and around it, we mingled. British khaki and German gray. I must say the Germans were the better dressed with their fresh uniforms for the holiday.
Only a couple of men, our men, knew German, but more of the Germans knew English. And I asked one of them why that was.
Because many have worked in England. I was a waiter at the Hotel Cecil. Perhaps I waited on your table.
Perhaps you did, I said, laughing. He told me he had a girlfriend in London and the war had interrupted their plans of marriage. I told him, don't worry, we'll have you beat by Easter. Then you can go home and marry the girl. He laughed at that. Then he asked if I'd send her a postcard he'd give me later. I promised I would.
Another German had been a porter at Victoria Station. He showed me a picture of his family back in Munich. His eldest sister was so lovely, I said I should like to meet her someday. He beamed and said he would like that very much and gave me his family's address.
Even those who could not converse could exchange gifts. Our cigarettes for their cigars, our tea for their coffee, our corned beef for their sausages, buttons and badges exchanged uniforms on both sides. One of our lads got an infamous spiked helmet. I traded a jackknife for a leather equipment belt, a fine souvenir to show off when I get home.
Newspapers, too, changed hands, and the Germans howled with laughter at ours. They assured us that France was finished, and Russia nearly beaten, too. We told them that was nonsense. One of them said,
Well, you believe your newspapers, and we'll believe ours.
Clearly, they've been lied to. Yet, after meeting these men, I wonder how truthful our own newspapers have been. These are not the savage barbarians we've read so much about. They are men with homes and families, hopes and fears, principles, and yes, love of country. In other words, men like ourselves. Why are we led to believe otherwise?
As it grew late, a few more songs were traded around the fire, and then all joined in, for I am not lying to you, Old Lang Syne.
Old acquaintance be forgot and never wrong to mind.
Then we parted with promises to meet again tomorrow, and even some talk of a football match.
I was just starting back to my trench when an older German clutched my arm.
My God, why cannot we have peace and all go home?
I told him gently that you must ask your emperor. He looked at me then, searchingly.
Perhaps, my friend, but also we must ask our hearts.
And so, dear sister, tell me, has there ever been such a Christmas Eve in all history? And what does it all mean, this impossible befriending of enemies?
For the fighting here, of course, it regrettably means little. Decent fellows, those soldiers may be, but they're just following orders, and we must do the same. Besides, it is our job to stop their army and send them back home. And never could we shirk that duty.
Still, one cannot help imagine what would happen if the spirit shown here were caught by the nations of the world. Of course, disputes must always arise, but what if our leaders were to offer well wishes in place of warnings, songs in place of slurs, presents in place of reprisals? Would not all war end at once?
All nations say they want peace.
Yet, on this Christmas morning, I wonder if we want it quite enough.
Your loving brother, Tom.
As songs brought these men together, let us now sing in the spirit of harmony and peace. The first song we will sing is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, and it's on page 7 of your program.
Rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Now to the Lord sing praises on you within this place, and with true love and brotherhood each other now embrace. This holy tide of Christmas full of comfort doth we face. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Oh, come, all ye faithful. That's you. We'll start with the English, with the Latin to follow. We got it.
All ye faithful, joyful and triumphant, O come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Adeste fideles, leti triumphantes, venite, venite in Bethlehem. Virgin videte, regem angelorum, venite adoremus, venite adoremus, venite adoremus, Dominum. Hark the herald.
Joy to the world. Deck the halls.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to sing Silent Night. You have candles. Please turn them on. And as the lights are dimmed, the good news is you can read. First, we're going to sing the German version, and then we'll sing in English. for joining us for the celebration of this miracle of peace that happened. And we wish more for peace for all of us. So we wish you a happy holiday, solstice, a Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Forget to blow your candle out.